How I stand out as an applicant? That's like one of the biggest questions. And people are trusting you literally with their lives.
Sometimes you will feel burnt out.
I had 2 interviews before I received my acceptance here.
An experience that can be nerve-wracking.
You're missing one thing from your application. We have, get a good GRE. Personally, the biggest plus you can have is, it's the easiest question, but it's also the hardest question.
The greatest resource you have in this program is each other.
Definitely like a wake-up call after the 4th week of being here.
Like, just submit the application. Like,
Just do it.
just do it.
My name is Jonah. I'm a first-year AA student here at Nova Southeastern University. I remember when I was an applicant, I always had all these questions about where to start, what it was really like, and the information that's out there isn't always the best. For a lot of these things, you have to know a guy who knows a guy, and you have to go to all these weird places to find the information. So I wanted to be a resource to just let everyone know what it's really like here, to answer a lot of your questions. You guys have been messaging me, and I wanted to bring in a couple of my classmates, Jake and Noah, and they're going to come answer all your questions you guys sent me.
So what are we looking forward to most about being a CAA?
Personally, I have always been someone that has wanted to help people, so I get to do something that has been a goal of mine since being young. And I used to be a sick kid, and I developed a whole thought that, I wanted to be like the people that were helping me when I was a kid, so I get to do that every day. Nothing better. Money, whatever, that comes and goes. I can feel fulfilled in a job.
So for me, I spent the last year before I started the program working in the OR as an anesthesia tech. And the one thing I'm really looking forward to is going back to that. I really like the work culture of an OR because you're very close with your coworkers and your colleagues because there's so many of you. Like the patient to provider ratio is so high in the provider side that you really get to have a nice sense of camaraderie with your colleagues. And I just really like the seriousness, but also the fun that can happen in that setting.
All right, and last couple. What are the best and worst aspects of our profession, and what's hard about it that no one talks about? I mean, we're not really in it right now.
So yeah, we're not practicing yet, so we're not fully equipped to answer this. But from what I've seen, I would just say that working in a hospital, especially in surgery, you're exposed to a lot of emotionally taxing events and poor outcomes sometimes. And that can be a lot to deal with, whether it was your fault, whether it wasn't, stuff like that can happen. But the benefits, I think, are definitely there. You just have to know what you're getting into and understand that you're taking a lot of responsibility and people are trusting you literally with their lives. But I think that it's also very rewarding for those exact same reasons.
Yeah, I can tell you from my experience as an anesthesia tech, there were times where you were delivering compressions on a patient because God knows why. And you couldn't do anything, and they have to call. And that is very draining to deal with. And the work alone is also draining. You are going to have so many patients, and there are going to be so few people alongside of you to take care of those patients that sometimes you will feel burnt out. I know plenty of people that felt burnt out. Best thing I can say is that, at least for the anesthesia groups that I know of down here in Florida, they are very willing to offer a bit of vacation time to make sure that we all are coming back and recentering ourselves.
In terms of the best things, I think every AA I've spoken with has felt that they're very well compensated, and the lifestyle that they're afforded is very nice. But yeah, it comes with a cost sometimes.
Yeah.
And that wraps up section 1 pretty much. So we're going to move on to how to stand out as an applicant. Describe our interview day.
Which one?
Starting from there down.
Okay.
Those are questions I haven't really answered.
Describe interview day. Ugh, I joke which one because I chose, instead of taking as much time off as possible from work, I would just stack the ones that I had right one before the other. So it was just driving all around constantly for it. So I would say anxious. I would say I was probably, I think the only thing I could feel until each interview was over was just really anxious. Mm-hmm. Regardless of whether or not I did well, it was just like a nerve-wracking experience.
Yeah. I had 2 interviews before I received my acceptance here, and I just chose to go here. The one here, it's very casual. They don't like pin questions on you halfway through. They just want to get to know you. It's still like an anxious thing if you've never been to like an interview before for such like a caliber profession, I guess. The other school I applied to, this is a little different format from how Fort Lauderdale is, and I didn't prefer it over this one. But it was, it was a good experience, but overall, it was, expected, anxious, stuff like that. So,
I just wanted to chime in and say that if you do have anxiety, I know a lot of people will only apply to certain programs because they know they want to go there, and to them, I really respect that. But the best thing that you can do if you're really anxious, I would say, is go to multiple interviews or even go to mock interviews. But having done it multiple times definitely helps because each interview is slightly different, but it's 75% the same. No matter if you're interviewing at Case or Emory or wherever else, a lot of things overlap. And they mostly just need to remind yourself that they already like you enough to invite you for the interview.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, what's the best way to prepare for an interview?
It's not even like an interview. For some places, I would say this one I barely talked about my application or what makes me stand out. It's more like, tell me about yourself. It's the easiest question, but it's also the hardest question. It's it tells you what your character is, how you act just talking to some random person. You're going to be doing that as a CAA. So
that's
about it.
I think I joked with all of the people I was interviewing with before anyone came out, where I was watch, first thing they're going to ask us is be tell us something about you that we didn't see on your application. And I had gotten into plants as a hobby over the pandemic, so I just talked about plants for at least a good 5 minutes. And they seemed really receptive to it, I guess. I think for preparing, don't drink a lot of caffeine. Do not. I know it's early for some people. Take the hit. You don't want to add more onto already what is an experience that can be nerve-wracking. And I would say before walking in, give yourself a moment to breathe. Really center yourself and remember that whatever was on CASA, even if it's highs, lows, doesn't matter at all because they saw something in you that had potential that they wanted to buff out and make a diamond out of.
Yeah.
And real quick, should they expect content questions or clinical questions or scientific questions, anything like that?
It depends where you interview. This place, absolutely not.
Jacksonville, they asked me clinical questions. They asked me 2.
South Orlando, yeah, a lot.
Tampa, I heard as well.
Yeah. So it really depends where you go. But just know that those clinical questions don't test they don't know this, they're not going to get in. It's just, I don't know, just to see how you deal with under stress, I guess.
I think they also are trying to see the thinking process. I think they're trying to see how your brain works a little to answer the question. Of course, you're going to have some base of knowledge, but they're wanting to see how you manipulate it in order to produce what could be a satisfactory answer.
Did you get accepted to more than one school? And if so, how did you go about it?
I'll start.
for
I
it.
applied to 7 schools. My first interview was here. I had a South Orlando interview 2 days later. 30 minutes after my South interview ended, I got accepted here. I accepted it during the phone call. So I didn't attend any other schools. I didn't get accepted from any other schools.
So I think what they're asking about is Case Western. I got accepted at Case Western, and they wanted $1,000 deposit, and I didn't pay it. I'm gonna just be honest. I didn't pay it because I thought I was gonna get accepted here. I ended up getting accepted here, and then I just told Case Western that I asked for like an extension at first, and then when I got my acceptance, then I just declined my offer at Case.
I was one of those people that threw a very small net. I applied to 3 programs, all the Novas down here, and I got an interview at Jacksonville, and I got an interview here, and I got waitlisted at Jacksonville, and I got an acceptance here, and I mean, where else was I gonna go?
Yeah.
What were some aspects in your application that made you feel like you stand out and ultimately led to a seat in the class?
Do you want to start me?
I have to think about my
Oh,
application.
so
alone.
how I stand out as an applicant? That's like one of the biggest questions, I feel like, right?
Of
Okay.
course.
So, yes, we have the GPA requirements. We have, get a good GRE. I think, personally, the biggest plus that you can have is somewhat of a healthcare experience, especially if you're around anesthesia. So, my first application cycle, I was working as a medical assistant for about a year. Before that, I probably had like 300 patient care hours, but no anesthesia experience, just the minimum 8 that Fort Lauderdale required. And I got denied. Upset, whatever. Got a new job, as I said before, as like the surgical tech. I worked at like a MAC center, so they just did 20, 30 cases a day, but I ended up having around probably 1,000 hours of experience with like around anesthesia, so I think that really helps me. And I was on the lower end of the grades wise coming from undergrad, so I wouldn't fret too much if your GRE and GPA are like kind of like what the website says is average. So
Yeah, I had difficulties in undergrad as well. I think what helped my application the most in terms of the grades portion and the academics is when I finally took the time for myself to assess what was wrong with how I was tackling school and just my life at that point in time, therapy, all these things, help. My trajectory academically accelerated very quickly to becoming a 4.0 student in the last 2.5 years that I was taking coursework. I had taken coursework after I graduated, and I didn't stop. I took some of the hardest courses I could at FSU in terms of biology, and I was looking to go into a master's program. I almost applied for a master's, and then I started working as a tech, and I pretty much within a month was like, yeah, this is exactly what I want to do.
Yeah.
And I worked 7 o'clock to 3 o'clock, and then it would be 7 o'clock to 7 o'clock, and whenever. I just did as much time as possible.
We had a question. Are there any respiratory therapists in our class? So
we have
Dr. Miller, right?
Dr. Miller is a respiratory therapist, but in terms of our class, we have one respiratory therapist amongst us, and I think the class above us had 1 or 2 as well, or has 1 or 2.
Could you talk about the setup of the interview? How long is it, and how many interviewees?
For Fort Lauderdale, it depends. I say anywhere between 3 to 8, 3 to 10. And what's gonna happen? I'll tell you right now. If you're coming for an interview here, you're gonna hang out with a couple of the current students, maybe 20, 30 minutes beforehand. And then one of our professors is going to grab you, bring you to a conference room, talk to you about 15 minutes, and you're done.
Yeah.
Simple as that. Other places, it's different. Some interviews last like 3 to 4 hours. It depends on the size of the people of the class that comes here for interviews. If there's like 3 people in your group, then there's it's be about an hour and a half. If there's 8, it's gonna be like 2.5 hours maybe. So.
I will say, if you are someone that is getting interviews too here, you're really lucky if you end up with us too, because we always seem to want to bring snacks in the morning. So there's a very real chance that if you end up with us, you're going to have food as well. So I don't really have much else to add in terms of interview day. I mean, Jake pretty much fleshed it out exactly how it is. We're going to do everything as much as possible to make you guys comfortable, because we were in your shoes last year. Yeah. So we completely understand what it's like.
We'll also show you like our ORs that we do stuff in, and have you intubate a mannequin maybe, see if you can do it. But that's just for fun. So Jonah's showing you.
Yep, this is the the simulation center.
Yeah, so. Yeah, that's about it.
How can applicants get shadowing experience, or how can they get a job as an anesthesia tech?
Depending on...
you have to get lucky, I feel like. Sometimes.
Depending on where you're from, that can be harder than others. I'm on the Facebook group, and man, I feel like that's the question that will probably never get answered until AAs work in every state. Yeah. Because there's always going to be someone from Idaho or, West Texas or something that doesn't have a hospital nearby them where they'd have to drive out. I'd say during your breaks, reach out, or before your breaks, reach out, see if there's anyone that would be willing to help get you those hours. In terms of being a tech, literally wait by the computer. Yeah. Wait by the computer until that ad shows up. It is not often that they come up.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to put in that, getting a job as an anesthesia tech can be very difficult, because certain places will expect you to have a certification, certain places will not. And for me, I personally couldn't find an anesthesia tech job in the city where I wanted to live in, so I had to move. I moved 2.5 hours away to go for this anesthesia tech job. So you do have to if you don't have great previous experience in healthcare, you do have to cast a wider net and be willing to make some of these more extreme decisions.
Anyone close to Tallahassee Memorial Hospital doesn't take certified anesthesia techs, or they will, I guess, but just so you know, if you're looking.
Does anyone in your program have a previous master's degree? How would that impact an application?
Oh yeah, there's a group of them that literally just finished a master's of bachelor science or biological science.
Yeah.
There's some
anatomy, biological sciences, physiology, literally anything. Any master's, it shows that you have enhanced your education in a certain field, and the program will be confident that you can handle it. Yeah. Basically. This
would be a great time to talk about how many students are traditional applicants, straight out of college, versus how many have had a gap year, and how many are have had many gap years, non-traditional applicants.
I'd say there's maybe 10 right out of college right now.
Yeah, I'd
maybe
say
even less than that.
At first, I thought it was more, but just preparing for this alone, we kind of were at 10 at most.
Yeah, at most.
I would say the majority of us have had at least
1 or 2 gap years.
1 or 2 gap years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would say most of us 1 or 2 gap years. Past that, it's usually people that, were in a career and decided to change and still had all their credits and everything were still applicable for them to put in the application.
Compared to your work experience and your application, holistically, how important is your exam scores and your GPA?
I'm going to say it depends. They're gonna bring you in for an interview regardless of whether you have a high GPA, what they want to see is who you are as an applicant with the grades, with the GRE or MCAT score, that essay, the research assignment. They want to see who you are when they put all those pieces together. And I don't think any one of us could tell you how the magic works in that one. I wish I could pick, their brains about it, but I really have no idea. I completely thought I botched this interview when I applied. So, I don't know.
Yeah.
That's hard.
I would just say do your best with whatever scores you have right now, and just submit your application. As long as you have everything else, just submit it as early as possible.
Mm-hmm.
Don't wait till later.
So what are your options if your application is rejected?
So, I have great experience about this.
Yeah, go for it.
So I got rejected. So I applied to Tampa last year, only Tampa, which was one of my mistakes. I should have applied to more. But I wanted to end up there because that was so close to home, where I live in Sarasota. But after that, I'm not going to be like a little hurt puppy. I'm going to try and build up and try to strengthen my application, do it again. So I went out, tried to find a new job to do something with anesthesia, which I magically found, as we spoke like before. It's like kind of just finding the needle in the haystack sometimes, depending where you are.
Pure happenstance sometimes.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, don't lose hope. It's only, a year? Might as well make some money, get some experience. If you get like a career within like anesthesia tech, surgery tech, anything with anesthesia, and you're there all the time, it'll like solidify, oh, this is what I want to do. So when I got that new job, I was like obsessed with it. I really loved to be in the environment, and I thought it was just really cool, basically. So I applied again, and yeah.
How important is a personal statement, and what criteria makes it good or bad?
Ooh.
Personal statement. Is that like the little essay they do at the beginning?
Yeah.
I would say...
Just tell your story. Tell your life story. Don't fake it. Just be yourself.
Yeah, I'd say that,
Do that.
out of all the things, I think that is one of the most important parts of your application. I did everything for my application, and I thought, oh, I'll write my personal statement and it'll be fine. It'll just take me like a week. It took me about 2 months to do because I wanted to get it right. And even when I pressed submit on CASA, I still did not feel like it was right. And I just talked about my life experience, and I talked about what I had seen, working, being in, children's hospitals when I was a kid and things like that really shaped, the person that I was, and then the struggles that I had as a person academically, and how I didn't give up and tried to rebound from it. I think really what they want to see is a little slice of who you are at the end of the day with that. Oh, additionally, going back to the last question, don't be afraid to pester some of the people a bit if you do get rejected. They want you to ask them sometimes what you could do better, what they saw were the weak points in your application. There are anesthetists that I know that applied and didn't get in their first cycle, emailed, and by the second or third time around, they were in.
Yeah. I forgot to mention that. I did bother the guy that kind of made the programs for NSU in Florida. And I kept emailing him month. He was like, just find a way to strengthen your application, maybe with some more experience, and apply again. So I did, and it worked out. So bother them. They want to be.
Yeah.
They tell you after the interview.
Oh, yeah. They'll tell you, straight up.
So these next two questions sort of go hand in hand. One is, should I submit my application if I have a low GRE and plan to retake it? And then when's a good time to submit the application? Is October too late?
I applied in October.
I applied in, like October 30th, 31st, and I don't think Nova got mine until November 2nd or something. So I don't think it's.
I wouldn't
too
wait
late.
till December. Basically, try to apply before November if you can. If you are planning to apply this cycle, if you haven't done so already.
I'd also
We already have interviews rolling out already.
Yeah,
So.
I'd also add though that our situation is going to be different than what this year and probably the next few years will be because of the increased presence on social media of the CAA practice. There are going to be more numbers in the applicant pool, and it's going to feel like, how do I stand out with so many more people now all of a sudden wanting to do this thing? Don't think about it.
Yeah.
Think about what you need to do to get your application done and focus exactly on what makes you the best applicant in your picture. They aren't going to look for any one of us to be the other person.
Yeah. Regarding what'd you say, the GRE score?
Yeah, it's should I?
What is the average it says or what it wants you to get to? I
Min
forget.
300.
Mid?
Min.
Oh, okay, 300 min.
Yeah.
So I got a 321, but you can get in with less than that
Alright.
potentially,
Yeah.
depending on like what.
I
other-
had a 303, so
I had a-
don't stress.
I had a 309, and if anyone who hasn't taken it, I guess we should probably tell you straight up, you're gonna get your scores except for like the written portion. That's like what, in like a month you get the official score
They're
for
looking
it.
Immediately.
they're looking for
Well,
no, not the written report.
Not the that's like your unofficial because they factor in the written portion as the official one.
Yeah.
But I got my score. I got a 309. I had set a personal goal to at least get a 310 minimum. And I like called my dad and I'm like, I now have to do this all over again. This is going to take so much more time. And he had to bring me back down to earth and be like, just submit the application. Like,
Just do it.
Just do it. And sometimes it may not be as bad as you think.
Yeah.
So in the chat, someone just asked about what study resources for the GRE. So I would say Greg Matt has a great like series on GRE. I would say if you have the choice between GRE,
How does the mic work?
it's on.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's always on.
I would say if you have the choice between MCAT and GRE, take GRE. It's much
Easier.
easier to study for.
Oh my god, yeah.
And I would also say, like, if you can only take it once, try and take it once. The practice tests that are official from ETS, my score from the practice test to the real test was like within 1 point. So it's very reliable, and you should know what you're going to get before you take it. Greg Matt is great. The official ETS practice is great. And I would say that studying for it is very consistent. Like, you should know it's a very predictable test.
Yeah. There's no surprises. I had like a Pearson or something. Pearson book. I did the book, took the test, got my score, went with it.
I had done Kaplan and then halfway through working through it, because with just working, I had a lot more free time on my hands to just dedicate to it. So I've like finished the 6-month course in 2.5.
Mm-hmm.
So I decided to add Magoosh as well to that. And I think both of them are also great resources. If you are looking for something, especially because a lot of you are going to be an undergrad and you're probably wanting to save some money, I would definitely recommend Magoosh on that side. But there are plenty of alternatives too that are cheap and effective. I got this question. Hi, Jonah. I'm located in the DC area and will be interested in applying to NSU Fort Lauderdale. Will you be able to rotate in hospitals located in DC, or will you have to wait until you graduate to apply for jobs in DC?
So
I
NSU
actually have to cut in and say that I don't think we're allowed to talk about our rotation sites, though, about which places we are and where we have sites. We just can only like say that we have a wide net for it.
It's scattered.
Okay.
I don't know what the rules are.
I'm sorry, but when you were outside, the other day at the interview, Anissa was like, "We can't really tell you guys where you have sites." So
It's across the United States.
I worked in Washington, D.C. What you should know about there is there's only a few hospitals, so the demand for AAs is diminished because everyone wants to work there. The demand for student rotations is diminished, but people do rotate there. It's possible.
So Brittany asks, now that you are in the program, how do you study? How do you manage your time?
Well, I'll say at the start, I didn't know what to expect. I didn't really study the greatest in undergrad. I kind of just cruise controlled it. But it was definitely a wake up call after the 4th week of being here. I had to change how I studied, and it took me a while to figure that out. But once I did, I'm thriving now. But what was the other half of that question?
How do you manage your time?
Get your sleep. That's the first thing. I'm a very big advocate for that. Get 7-8 hours of sleep. That's the best thing for you. But besides that, just do your classes. After your classes, study for 4 or 5 hours, maybe. Have your own self time after that. You don't have to spend 8-9 hours a day studying. People say they do. I don't believe it.
Oh, really? Really?
Maybe you, but
really?
I don't do that.
Before an exam day, you'll do that. But on a typical day,
I don't know about
regular regular days throughout the week, especially towards the beginning of your first semester. Just see what you're being given, and then plan appropriately. Designate days that you want to study for certain materials. But
I will say, compared to undergrad, in undergrad, I was very used to studying by myself, just doing assignments. And what you should know about this program is it's very exam heavy. There's not very many assignments, not very many tasks to do. It's sort of just you need to know the material, and they tell you what you need to know, and you need to go and learn it. And so because of that, the greatest resource you have in this program is each other. And one of the study methods that I had to learn this semester that has been really great is just studying with a partner, group studies, talking through problems, teaching each other, being collaborative like that is, I think, one of the great benefits of being in a program like this.
Yeah. Don't be a lone wolf.
I'll say for myself, absolutely utilize that there are plenty of people here that you can bounce ideas off of, as well as just concepts, and just really talk about it. Jake was mentioning that he, has more ability to manage his time and get that 4 or 5 hours. I'm not that kind of person at all. I'm on the complete opposite side. I am pretty much here nowadays, since I'm starting to set my sleep schedule better, at 8, 9 o'clock, and I don't leave until about 9 p.m. with the classes as well, and then also, meals. But I pretty much eat, sleep, and breathe anesthesia as much as humanly possible.
We will this semester for sure.
Oh,
regarding first semester, it was a little different, I feel like.
Yeah, definitely different.
A big difference from undergrad is that, Carlos is coming to talk about the.
Yes, actually.
But before we get off topic, I just wanted to. I already got off topic.
What am I supposed to do?
I don't know. Go over there.
Here,
okay.
swap out, right?
Yeah, swap out with Jake. We have Carlos, one of our classmates. He was in the
Welcome.
I'm blanking.
Pre-AA.
In the pre-AA program. So he can talk about his experience with that. And if there are any questions on it as well, because I know that that's been floated around as well.
Do you think lower grades in prereqs taken freshman year can be made up for stronger grades in more upper level prereqs or in the post-bac?
Both. So for the pre-program, before getting invited, I had applied. Before applying, I graduated from Florida State, and I didn't. Yeah, go Noles, baby. And I didn't really. I knew I didn't have the GPA that you needed to get into the master's program here. So I was also missing a few classes. I was missing physics, calculus, the orgo lab, a few minor ones. So I retook those. I took them. Made sure I got A's to boost up my GPA. The qualifications you need to be in the pre-program, it's not high GPA, not high GREs. Not saying that there weren't people with that, because there absolutely was, and had tons of hours too. It's more so like you were missing one thing from your application that kind of set you apart, and doing this post-bac program will give you that one thing that you're missing. And I mean, it's been pretty helpful since. I'd like, back to the question, take other upper level classes or do the pre-AA program. Both, really. Like, you want both, because let's say you don't get in, but you applied early and stuff. Maybe you'll get the invite for the Q&A and you get to apply, and that'll be an opportunity, because regardless, at the end of the day, the goal is to get in and to get into the masters, and that's what you want to do, no matter how you get there.
I'm actually going to add in real quick, since I spoke earlier about how academically I didn't have the best experience, especially in like freshman and sophomore year. But yeah, definitely utilize, if maybe you don't get the email, utilize taking some difficult courses or things that are different and can kind of round out your experience a little bit more. I took histology like my junior year, and I was petrified of the experience because of how people talked about it at FSU. And I loved every second of it once I actually figured out how to study for it. And taking harder courses, taking things that will challenge you, can also motivate you to work just as hard and excel. And I mean, hell, watching Carlos now, I took a class with him when we were back at FSU, and he works hard almost every day. So it's kind of awesome to see him here too. But I'm going to let Carlos keep going with the pre-bac program.
Yeah, the only other question was, how much does the post-bac improve an applicant's standing?
Well, again, that's more so, I would want to answer that, but that's more so get invited to it and they'll tell you how. Because it's kind of like a different set of standards, in the sense of like, you got to meet certain levels that they're expecting. And with that, once you meet them, you'll be pretty happy with your results and how it ends up. But again, I can't give away all the information for it, because you guys we're not done, There's still chances you guys could get in, It could be like, not the last option to get in, but one of the few that can help you. So definitely, to add on to that, it definitely prepped me for the masters. I felt very comfortable my first semester. Still stressed. That'll never change. That will never change. But I mean, overall, what you learn there, you can bring to everyone else and help everyone around you, make them better as well. So it's a team effort at the end of the day.
Oh, wait. So you need to be invited to get into the post-bac after sending a CASA app and getting rejected?
Yes, basically. Like, those are the two qualifications that you need to be invited or be asked to join it. Like, you'll get a random email. They send it. I mean, I don't know how many. Again, we were the first class to ever do it, so I don't know how many they've sent this year. I did step in once to do like a Q&A thing for them during their interviews, and there was like, they upgraded the seats, so like there was 10 last time, and then now there's like 20. So definitely more chances to get in, but yeah, that's the two qualifications. Basically have a CASA in, and sadly the denial, but it's not the end of the road.
Is the program in person or online?
Both. So it's like a hybrid class.
Okay.
Your first semester will be mainly online. Unless you're going to meet up with a classmate or something, then I guess you could say it's in person. But no, it's all online. They work with you in like your work schedule, because they do push you to work while in the post-bac. So then again, like those skills I was telling you guys about earlier of working and taking those extra classes, it'll come into play there as well. And then the following semester after that, you do have like clinicals or labs that you have to go in person, and that was the only time. You also have class in person that day too, so that was pretty cool to like actually see the people who interview us teach us in person again. It was really interesting.
And as far as the main program goes, it's pretty much all in person, except for some reverse learning classrooms, but you still have an in-person component.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, sometimes teachers just can't make it, or something comes up in their schedule, so they'll put up a video.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, I think a couple of our professors serve in leadership roles, so they're not always free. So they have recorded lectures as well that we can utilize too. So sometimes that's just how it works, and you make do.
One thing that's nice about this program that I think is not a feature at a lot of the other programs that I interviewed at is that Nova has all of their lectures, or pretty much all of the lectures, broadcast on Zoom, and then they're also archived, so you can go back and rewatch it. If you're sick, you can watch it from home. And I think that's something that a lot of the other programs don't do, and that's a great feature that NSU has.
Definitely. And your teachers will work with you.
What's your favorite part about being a student at NSU? We'll also lump this in with what makes NSU a unique program, and why did you choose NSU over other programs?
I'm gonna let the guy that went to NSU.
Yeah, I just love it down
answer
here.
That one.
I just love like the culture down here and all the, things to do down here compared to where I'm from and where I like went to high school and stuff like that. I really just fell in love with the area. There's a little bit of every part of the world here. And everyone here I've ever met is just, some of the most amazing people I've had experiences with in my life. So why go here? It's because of that reason.
In terms of being a student at NSU, I've stated already I spend pretty much most of my time in this one building studying, so I'm not going to answer much to that one because I probably wouldn't know what else NSU has to offer outside of this room. What I can say about the program, when I worked, probably 97% of the anesthetists that I worked with all graduated from NSU programs, and most of them from Tampa or from Fort Lauderdale. We had just started to get a couple from Jacksonville last year, I believe. Every single one of them said that their experience here and the people that they got to work alongside was transformational in itself. That they met people that just became instant family. There are people that will take sick days to go to Puerto Rico to go to each other's weddings, and are people that will actively go to these big organizational meetings even though they have no intention of going to the informational sessions, just so then they can hang out with their friends. And I can say I hope to have that exact same experience at the end of the day.
Yeah.
If I can have that, I feel like it'll be a success in itself beyond graduating.
Yeah, not only that, but everyone here, it's so cooperative with this program, with this cohort.
Mm-hmm.
I could have not talked to someone from the very few weeks we started. I can ask them a question, and they'll immediately help me and try to help me understand it. And I haven't seen that, much else anywhere else I've been.
Yeah.
So everyone's very friendly, very cooperative, and everyone here wants to help you succeed alongside them.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I'm going to just go through some of these chat questions real quick. Would you recommend submitting a low score or waiting to retake it?
Well, what's a
low
score?
score? Is it, if it's under 300,
It's
depends on your GPA. If your GPA is on the lower side, maybe consider retaking the GRE.
I would say if you're already planning on retaking the GRE, then you should just wait.
Take it now, though. Schedule it.
Yeah,
for,
schedule it as
2 weeks away.
Does
Start
Nova
grinding.
use flipped classroom style?
I don't even know what that means.
It's like the reverse classroom.
Yeah, the reverse classrooms. Yeah, that we said, some of the professors have busy schedules outside of here, so
They work alongside of teaching us. They're active CAAs,
so they're, and some of them beyond being just CAAs alone are in leadership positions for their groups, or one of them is in leadership for FAAA. So he's very busy and sometimes just isn't around.
yeah.
Can you apply if you're still taking your prereqs and you haven't got your final grades yet?
I believe so. I couldn't tell
I don't know
you.
how the supplemental application works.
I think that
NSU
from
at
what
least.
I had read, you can take prereqs still. I think that I think your final grades for them had to be submitted though once the semester that you were taking was over. So say you're in fall semester and you're taking, I don't know, organic chemistry 2 this semester, and then next semester you need to take biochem. You can do both and apply, and you probably will have no problem getting an interview.
That makes sense, yeah.
How do you get involved with leadership with FAAA and Quad A while being a student?
I mean, beyond, we have student government here that are reps, that are representatives for our program for those organizations. I work alongside them, and beyond, just a simple class election.
So they host conferences, and we're all really excited to attend these conferences in person. NSU does provide some opportunities to help sponsor you to attend these conferences, and so we're hoping to have a lot of our classmates from also the other NSU campuses all attend these conferences for FAAA and Quad A.
I will say though, I think beyond that, I don't know if the question was meaning from our side or from trying to have organizational leadership in those programs.
Yeah.
I don't think that there is a way. I think it's because of the fact that they understand how rigorous these programs are. They're like, no, don't worry about trying to get involved. Be involved in your class, and that's enough for them.
Yeah.
How did you decide on what NSU campus to choose?
Well, again, I got accepted 2 days after my interview. It was the first one. I wasn't going to hesitate. Yes, I love this area. This is my first choice. So that's why.
Jonah, you're gonna have to answer that one. I've
Okay.
already said that this was my only what I got into. So just come over here and answer it real quick.
So which place to choose, that is something where I had to deliberate for a lot because I was accepted in a lot of programs in all these other states. Out of NSU programs, I only applied to Fort Lauderdale. The reason I applied here is because it's the main campus. It's the flagship. I'm sure all the other campuses have their perks, but one thing I really liked about the main campus here is that we're very close with all of the other professional programs, and we get to take classes with some of them. Our anatomy course, we had access to the cadaver lab. I don't know if that's a feature at other programs. I suspect not every program has that. So we get to actually go hands-on with the cadavers and learn anatomy together with some of the other professional programs as well. And also, I felt like the community was great here. I felt like the cohort dynamics was really nice here. It didn't feel as competitive or
Stuffy.
as some other places. So I felt like they had a lot to offer here in terms of both what there is to do outside of school as well as what you'll get in the program. What's the grading system like? Is it pass fail? What's a passing grade?
So you have to get a course grade of 75 or greater in every course.
Mm-hmm.
If you fail, I don't know how it is for other places, but NSU for Lauderdale offers what's called remediation. If you pass that remediation exam, you get a C-E in that course. You're allowed up to 2 of those. The third time you fail a class, you're out.
Mm-hmm.
Besides that, you have your GPA. From what I understand now, there's a overall graduating GPA of a 3.0 must be attained in order to graduate. So yeah.
No, you're allowed 2 remediations. Those happen the week after your final exams. But you need a 75 to pass.
Strive for greater.
Yeah, strive for greater
Basically.
because a lot of those courses, you could be writing midterms on, a 76, 78.
Yeah.
Hell, you could be at a 74, 72. And you will not sleep at all if you are that anxious about it. And, try to go in with as much, potential as possible in excelling and going above the 75.
How is the difficulty of the course compared to your undergraduate experience?
Oh, it's a lot more difficult. First of all, if you're taking like 6, 7 classes a semester, when sometimes you take 5 in undergrad. I don't know what you guys do out there. I only did like 4 or 5 each semester, but like the content first semester for the amount of time we were given, it was a lot. I will say that.
Mm-hmm.
All of anatomy and physiology on top of our regular anesthesia courses. It was like a big workload to manage at first, and you just have to find like how you work best around it. But it was tough.
Yeah, I think the only situation that could come even remotely close to even just one class taking one class in this whole program would have been me taking histology during undergrad, and that's because they taught it at a med school level. So you were required to go constantly.
Yeah.
But beyond that, there's not a single class comes close to that experience at all as what we've had to do here. You will be tested almost every single week on how much you can shove into your brain, and you'll be surprised. You will legitimately be so surprised at how much you'll come out with. Just in our first semester alone, I feel like we've come out with a lot more information than we started with. And we all, at some point, were like, how?
Yeah, I didn't think I could learn this much in the amount of time I've had. I think everyone says that in this program at least.
Yeah.
How many hours do you dedicate to school a day?
It depends. Like before tests, like what Noah was saying earlier.
All day.
Yeah, I mean,
All gas.
break it up all day. If you have the weekend, you're gonna be, when you wake up, study, eat lunch, study, eat dinner, study, go to bed.
With all this studying,
hours-wise,
do
it
we
depends
still
on how-
have fun?
Yeah,
still have fun here?
we have fun after tests, but it's more like not the amount of time you dedicate, but it's the efficiency. Like if you're with a group of people, but you're talking half the time, you're not being efficient, but you're still putting those hours in.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can find a good medium between, conversing with classmates about certain topics without going too far off topic to the extent where you spend multiple hours without accomplishing what you could have done in half the time. So it really depends on how you study and who you study with.
Yeah, definitely depends on
100%.
who you are around. Personally, I go on the far end of things. I am probably one of the few in this program that really just goes as long as humanly possible, and no real reason except what else do I gotta do?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, we have nothing else to do here except
I don't have a
school.
job.
That's all you do. Don't work.
I moved
Probably
down
not.
here, so all my friends are, well, all of them. So at some point, you kind of go, well, why am I going to waste my loan money on gas when I could just hang out here?
Yeah.
Do you feel like you have the support and resources to do well if you need help understanding the material?
100%.
Absolutely. And I would say even beyond the material alone, there is a lot of help resources available. As someone with, my own mental health, I strived for both of my interviews to make sure that the programs were, equipped with resources to where if, say I just wasn't in the right mindset, that I could just email a professor and they would be understanding. And Dr. Wagner, who, runs the whole ship, told me at my interview that he completely understood and that there was no reason for me to be worried about it at all.
Yeah.
All right. What are the top 2 perks and top 2 downfalls, or just top in general, of living in Fort Lauderdale?
Top is like what you can do outside of here. As we are in classes, it's hard to get out sometimes, but when we do, I think we always have just a grand old time. It's a great area. There's something new to do every mile you go towards in Davie, Fort Lauderdale area. You know, you have Miami south of us, Boca Raton. If you go to travel a few hours to the west coast, you got Naples. You go up from there, Tampa. You know, you're in a good like hotspot area to do a lot of things outside of the class. The weather here's not the summer, but outside of the summer, it's pretty nice. You know, it's not really rainy ever. It gets cold here sometimes, but not, you know, crazy.
What's the housing situation like? Are most students living near campus, both during didactic and clinical rotations?
So
I'd actually say that, because we talked about this when we first started, I'm probably one of the few students that lives, like 10 minutes from the campus, and that's one on the farther side for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Most of the class lives in some of the same apartment complexes and everything.
There's a lot of places around this area to have housing. There's a lot.
I spent about
There'll always be something.
4 days doing just tours because I just wanted to see as many places as possible. So then I knew where I wanted to be.
Yeah. But we do have some locals, you know, we have people from Miami too.
Mm-hmm.
So 30, 45-minute drives even.
Yeah.
And they're still doing it. So
Do it every day.
yeah.
How do you deal with burnout as a student AA?
I do what I want to do. I still play video games. I listen to music. I go eat, hang out with friends.
I mean,
Yeah.
I will say that, burnout, it happens. Sometimes you just don't want to do any reading. You don't want to look at a single Anki card. And if someone mentions a single anesthetic drug, you're going to wrap your hands around their throat and be like, stop it, no more. Take the moment to go home or just drive around, whatever you need, because at the end of the day, they're going to understand exactly what you need. They're not going to hound you and be like, why didn't you figure it out? If you explain to them, like, I just needed a minute. No one's going to judge you for it.
And how long did the whole application process take you to complete?
When did I start?
Well, my first application last year, the one I got denied to, I started in like September and I didn't submit it until like January because I was like struggling with trying to get my hours in. And like my job was not like helping me trying to get those hours, like take a day off of work. So I was like in a weird spot with that, alongside like getting recommendations from like certain people I was trying to hit. So I hesitated too late, and I was like one of the last interviews last year to go, and I just got waitlisted. And then later I found out I got denied. So second year, I already had all my previous things from the year before. So application took me like a week to fill out. I just wrote a new personal statement. I wrote a new like journal article.
Mm-hmm.
I showed the different hours that I got from that new job. So it really depends if you've already started working on it versus you don't even have some of the prereqs started yet.
It opened in June, and my goal was to do it by June. And then time just got the best of me, Things happen, life happens, and a lot of the goals that I wanted to do, I had to push to the side, and I didn't take the GRE until August. And just submit the application.
Just do it.
Just do it.